Greetings and welcome to Danish-InfoNews TV, a Danish English news briefing on foreign policy. We break down why Israel barred 37 NGOs from Gaza and what it means for aid, security, and global diplomacy. Israel bans 37 NGOs in Gaza. Aim security and humanitarian concerns. Israel announced on December 30th, 2025, that the licenses of 37 international non-profit operating in Gaza and the West Bank will expire on January 1st of 2026. The government says the organizations failed to meet new, stricter registration requirements. The ban will take full effect on March 1st of 2026. The affected organizations include some of the region's most prominent humanitarian groups such as Doctors Without Borders, MSF, Oxfam, Action Aid, CARE, the Danish and Norwegian Refugee Councils, Caritas Internationalis, and the International Rescue Committee, IRC. This policy shift comes aimed heightened Israeli security concerns over Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, and its alleged infiltration of NGOs operating in Gaza. Israel, primarily through the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs and COGAD, cite three main concerns. Operational infiltration. Israel alleges that PIJ and Hamas operatives have gained employment within humanitarian frameworks to conduct military activities under humanitarian cover. In December of 2025, Israel specifically alleged that MSF employed a member of PIJ. Aid diversion. Resources intended for civilians, including construction materials, fuel, or funds, are allegedly seized by PIJ to build tunnels or manufacture weaponry. Ideological exploitation. Some NGOs are accused of promoting campaigns delegitimizing Israel or supporting the boycott, divestment, and sanctions BDS movement, which Israel views as a soft power front complementing armed groups like PIJ. Let's look at a reference case: fundraising for Hamas in Denmark. Israeli and international authorities cite examples of terror financing to underline these security concerns. On December 2nd of 2025, Danish authorities charged two men with raising over 5.6 million krona for Hamas, which is listed as a terrorist organization by the EU. According to police, the funds were collected through networks of associations in Denmark and abroad. The 28-year-old suspect was arrested in the early hours of the morning, while the 59-year-old has been in pre-trial detention for nearly 2 years. Authorities allege money was intended for Hamas activities, including transfers abroad. The case highlights concerns that extremist groups may exploit legitimate organizations or fundraising networks to finance operations. Recent regulatory actions, December 2025. To address these concerns, Israel implemented stringent new registration requirements for all foreign non-profits. The requirements include submitting detailed documentation about staff and operations, including personal data for Palestinian and international employees. Israel argues this is necessary to rule out links to terrorism. NGO and international response. Affected NGOs and the international community have largely rejected the security rationale. They warn that handing over staff lists violates humanitarian neutrality and may put employees at risk. European-based organizations also note that sharing such data would conflict with GDPR regulations. Foreign ministers from 10 countries, including Denmark, Canada, France, Japan, and the UK, have warned that these bans could cause a catastrophic deterioration of Gaza's humanitarian situation. NGOs like MSF support nearly 20% of hospital beds in Gaza. Let's look at the humanitarian context. Winter conditions have worsened an already dire situation. Heavy rainfall has flooded tents and damaged infrastructure, leaving civilians in appalling conditions. According to the December 30th, 2025 joint statement from the foreign ministers of Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Iceland, Japan, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK, 1.3 million people require urgent shelter support. More than half of health facilities are only partially functional. 740,000 people are vulnerable to toxic flooding. 1.6 million people face acute food insecurity, according to the latest IPC report. The ministers emphasized the critical role of NGOs, which collectively deliver around $1 billion in aid across Palestine annually. Deregistration of these organizations could force closures within 60 days, causing 1 in 3 healthcare facilities in Gaza to shut down. They urge Israel to ensure NGOs and UN partners, including UNRWA, can operate in Gaza in a sustained and predictable way, lift unreasonable import restrictions, open all crossings, and increase the flow of humanitarian aid. These steps are essential for impartial and neutral aid delivery, repair of critical infrastructure, and support for recovery and reconstruction. Israeli government position. Diaspora Affairs Minister Emachai Chili stated that the regulations are safety measures to protect Israeli sovereignty and prevent exploitation of humanitarian frameworks for terrorist purposes. He said humanitarian assistance is welcome. The exploitation of humanitarian frameworks for terrorist purposes is unacceptable. Although technically NGOs could operate through Egypt, current border restrictions make this nearly impossible. Coordination with Israeli authorities is also required for practical operations in Gaza. Key context: Hamas versus PIJ. While Hamas governs Gaza, PIJ is considered more radical and less predictable. Israeli authorities remain highly sensitive to the possibility of PIJ embedding within legitimate civilian structures to bypass surveillance, which partly motivated the December 30th NGO ban. As the March 1st of 2026 deadline approaches, international concern continues to grow over the impact on civilians in Gaza, with foreign ministers and humanitarian organizations emphasizing the urgent need for sustained, predictable access to ensure life-saving aid reaches those in need. That concludes our briefing on the Gaza humanitarian situation and Israel's NGO ban. For ongoing coverage, expert analysis, and the latest updates from around the world, make sure to subscribe to Danish-InfoNews TV. Don't miss a story, hit the subscribe button and stay informed. And Happy New Year!